Words are powerful and have been compared to a sword. Um, Words can be sweet and soothing to the ear, yet it can be harsh and painful for the heart. Words are the most potent way we communicate as human. So my guest today has a lot to do with words and the difference, and the different way we use words. Did I hear you say, who among us doesn't use words? After all, I'm talking now and I'm using words. Well, we all do, but some do, and they make use of words more than others. They give different meaning to its use than most of us. My guest today is one of those few peculiar users of words. And before I introduce you to her, I would like to share something with you that was left with me by my guest last week. That is the happy jar. So I had my pick today from the happy jar, and I just want to share what that pick, is. It says, "And whoever puts his trust in God, then it will suffice for him." And that is from Quran, Surah Al-Talaq 65, verse 3. So that's, from the Apija. Like I said last week, I would really encourage as many of us as possible to get that happy jar. It's a very, very good way to start your day. And with that, I'll just like us to go for a break so that we can now properly meet my guest for today. And before we go for that break, I want to remind you, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, that you can also be part of this conversation. Leave your comments. If you have questions you would want me to ask my guest, please do put them, leave them as a comment, and we would take the questions. Also, for those who will be joining on Zoom, you would have the opportunity to ask my guest question at some point, or you could possibly put your questions in the Q&A or raise your hand, and I would allow you to speak. So I'll quickly go for a break and then introduce my guest for today. Yeah, so my guest today on WinAction, that is my winner woman today. I keep saying it, at every opportunity I have, and during when I'm on this show, that every woman is a winner. And it's amazing the kind of things we do as women. Yeah, men also do things, and we do appreciate the things that they do. But this show is about women, and it's about celebrating what we do, how we do it, and how we're able to cope, having all the different things that we have to deal with. So my guest today is my darling sister. I met through my own community engagement activities also. And since then, it's been like, meeting a sister from another woman, from another mother. My friend today, my sister, my guest is Sultana Parvin. Sultana is a mother of 3. So you see, and why I said we have many hearts. She has a master's in race ethnicity diaspora, and has written articles for Middle East Eye, Media Diversified, and lives in London. She's also an activist. When I say she has a lot to do with words, by now you should be having, you should know why I've said that. And she leads a lot of workshop on issues around anti-Blackness within the Muslim community. She's of Bangladeshi origin, and I'm Nigerian, and I always say on this program, if you are a woman, regardless of your background, whether you're a Muslim, a non-Muslim, whether you're black, white, whatever it is, you are a woman. We've got that in common, and we all do, a lot of things. So she's of Bangladeshi background, and she came to the UK when she was just about 18 months. So she's proper British now. And she also worked for Parliament as a caseworker. She is a teacher and also holds a degree in history and politics. Now you can see, just how very, very well rounded my guest today is. And also, she's got 5 sisters and 1 brother. So we have proper introduction of, Sultana. Sultana, hello, how are you? Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, Rashida. It's really
I'm
lovely
so
to be
delighted that you agreed to be part of this show today. You know how long I've been running after you, that I wanted you on WinAction. You're still, every woman I said is a winner. And what we do, even if you're an housewife, you are a winner, because it's not easy. If you're a stay-at-home mother, you're a winner, because it's not easy to do all those things. And so I'm always very delighted to have the opportunity to share with my guests, their experience and the things that they've had to deal with. So I'm going to start off like this with you, Sultana. I've introduced you, I've read this very impressive profile about you. But if I was to meet you for the first time, and I'm really very much interested in you, what would you tell, me about yourself? Who is Sultana? I don't want all the, academic, whatever, but you Sultana. Who is Sultana?
Okay, so I'd say probably about myself that I'd say I'm from Bangladeshi heritage. I'd say that I'm probably I'm quite a passionate person. I like to read. I like to watch films. I like to understand different things about people. I like to understand different ways, especially about women. I think I'm interested in, kind of like the lives of women. I love to have fun. I like to kind of laugh and joke and relax. And I think that my passions are probably, if I could, are probably art and music. Those are the kind of things that I really like. And poetry and everything related to art, I think, is really, really interesting to me. And as I've gotten older, it's kind of grown in me that I'm really into those things.
Yeah, that's why when I was introducing the show today, as much as possible, when I bring people on this show, I think about them, and the little I know about them before going deeply into the conversation on WinAction. And it sort of normally informs what I write as my intro, or what I decide to say as my intro. And when I think about you, what comes to my mind is words. I see you as someone that uses, words in different ways. You are a spoken word artist. You also are a campaigner, an activist, and there's no way you can do all those things without knowing how to use your words, without knowing how to use the right language with the people you speak with. So I now want to ask you, how was it like growing up as a girl? What was it like? I know you came to the UK at the age of 18 months.
Well, growing up in the country, so Yeah. So my primary school was actually a church school, and every Friday they used to take us to church.
Mm,
So my first experience growing up was, and the school, it had me and my older sister, and then it had one other. I think he was a West African boy, George, who was, and so we were the only kind of ethnic minority children in the whole of the school. The rest of the school was very English, white,
mm,
um, and it was quite a difficult experience actually. I found it quite hard because I
mm,
didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. We did suffer quite a lot of racism, um, and so it was some parts of my childhood really happy. Like I remember making friends, and I used to really enjoy going to school. So I
mm,
went to two different primary schools, and I really enjoyed my second primary school. I really, really enjoyed going there because it was more of a mix of children. There were children from all sorts of different backgrounds and everything. But I think that uh, generally speaking, I think it's hard being a brown girl growing up in London at that time,
mm.
because I never saw many role models. So it was kind of
Yeah,
like we were
exactly.
just a lot of the time it was us just because I've got so many sisters and I've got an older sister.
Mm,
We were spending a lot of time with each other, but I think those are my earliest memories. I
yeah.
remember happy memories, such as like I used to stuff that is not very common now. Like we used to play out on the street for hours and hours and hours on end down our road.
Mm,
In the summer, like I remember when I managed to get my first £1, and then I'd go to the shops, and at that time you could
mm,
buy lots of sweets with £1, lots of penny sweets. So we'd go into the shop and get lots of penny sweets. Um, so those were really happy memories.
mm,
Just having friends and making friends and playing on the streets. But other times it was hard because I think because we felt like there wasn't a lot of other Asian families or black or
mm,
brown families around there. It was a little
mm.
bit difficult. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think those are my earliest memories of being a girl in London.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate that the network is really very poor, but I was able to make out a lot of what you said, and
Okay.
something came out at me um with what you said about your experience growing up as a brown
Mhm.
skinned person, and of course I've heard similar conversation where black people also
Mm,
share the same exact experience, if not more, because there is that level in terms of how much of people like you see around, in where you're growing up and the things you do.
yeah.
Now, would you say there is a difference in the environment compared to when you were growing up as a young girl? Do you think young brown black girls and people generally, do you think they are having it better now? Do you think it's a better deal?
That's a really interesting question because I think that the easy answer would be yes, but I
Mm,
think it's much more complicated than that. I think that the challenges now that so I have a daughter and she's 20, and I'm just trying to think of that, the challenges she had, um, growing up, they're very different to mine. So whilst there probably is more visible black and brown children, in TV or in magazines or in
mhm.
social media and what have you, so they don't feel invisible. But I do
Okay.
think that for a lot of black and brown women, young girls, there's
Mm,
still this thing of not having your voice necessarily heard,
mm,
or not feeling that you're always given an opportunity to say what you think or you feel.
mm,
Um, and I think that that is still there.
mm,
It may not be there in the same way it was when I was growing up, but I still think there's so many challenges that young black and brown girls they face when it comes to having their opinion heard, feeling equal in society, feeling that they can achieve the same things, and be treated equally and be treated justly whenever they're kind of trying to, you know, make something of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And I think that has continued.
Okay.
I think now maybe there's, and I hopefully, if we kind of continue to support our daughters, so that they can feel that they have women behind them, they have a community behind them, it will make a big difference to how they feel in themselves. Because a lot of the time, it's not necessarily what's even going on the outside, it's how you feel in yourself. You might feel isolated or lonely or unable because you're the only one who's doing that. But now I'm hoping that will change because they have us. And so because we know about these experiences, then we can help them to kind of feel more confident. So that their experience is better.
That's really, something very important that you have said, and which I think would also lead me to my next question, and that is, how easy is it for you as a woman to progress with your life choices? How easy was it? Or is it because you are still in that process, isn't it?
These are really good questions. It's not easy. It's not easy. I think it's it's not easy because sometimes you end up having to do things on your own and make decisions on your own, and there's not a lot of support. Like for instance, when I wanted to do my master's again after a long break from studying, I think it was hard for me because I didn't have really anybody to support me to say you should definitely do it, or we can help you with finances, or you could do this. So I had to kind of make that decision on my own, and it was a difficult thing. I think the only thing that pushed me was that if I don't do it now, then I'll get older and then I'll never be able to do it. So I need to take that leap now and just do it now and see if I can do it. And alhamdulillah, like, it's been so fantastic that I have done it because it's kind
That's
of
great.
made me see and learn so much. And also to give me confidence that I can achieve this. And if then I wanted to go and do something else, then I could do something else, And so I don't think it's easy for women generally to be able to make decisions and, like progress, whether it's career or it's studying or any of those things. I think sometimes there's lots of obstacles. And if they don't have support, it can sometimes be very challenging. So support is everything. If you have support, I think it makes such a difference. And the nice thing is once I kind of, was at the end of completing my master's, like I am, it's, so many people have said, that's wonderful, it's great. A lot of women have said, we're so happy you've done this and thank you for doing it, because it's such an important thing you're doing. So that's always really lovely to hear. That's so nice to hear.
You said something that's really struck me there when you said there wasn't really any much support. Nobody saying, "Oh, go for it," but you had to tell yourself that, see, I need to do this, and you took that action. A lot of women find it very difficult to do that, especially when they look around them and there are things that they feel are so important, more than taking that leap for themselves. And for you as someone who is also into campaign and fighting and trying to change the society around the issue of anti-blackness, colorism, and the rest of it. A lot of it, I believe, is what is driving you is from your own experience and what you can see around you. Now, how would you say that for someone with all these very massive obstacle, at least that's the way we see things that obstruct our progress, they are very massive. What was your own style of cutting off those massive obstacle and saying, yes, I'm going for it? how were you able, how did you drive yourself?
I think for me, the driver was always my sense that as a person, as a human being, I had to live as spiritually connected to my faith as possible.
Mm,
And because of that, because of my faith, and because of my sense that I had from a very young age that really, because when you're younger and you're treated quite differently, which
mm,
I was treated very differently. I think when you're younger, it's such an it's a very difficult obstacle to overcome. But as
mm,
you get older, it can become a strength because you've already not followed the crowd. You're
mm,
already not doing what everybody else is doing. And
mm,
I think that for me, when I was younger, I was already not kind of following the crowd and doing what everybody was doing. And it was very difficult. But as I got older, it became a strength. It became
mm,
like the ability to think independently, like emotionally be independent from other people. So when communities were doing a particular thing, I didn't
mm,
feel I needed to do the same thing already. So then
mm,
when it came to things such as campaigning or talking about anti-blackness or racism or
mhm,
misogyny or
mm,
even violence against women or any of those things, it felt I already had um, the ability to do things alone. I'd already proved that I could do things alone. So then
mm,
when I undertook these, it didn't feel like I was answerable to anybody. Does that make sense? I was
mm,
only
mm.
answerable really
So
to
you
myself and
you
to
you
God.
felt
So
the need to do something for yourself, and you weren't thinking, oh, what would they think about me? What would they say
yeah,
about me? Yeah, I get that.
people say, yeah, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking that because I'd stopped thinking about that quite a long time ago.
Mm,
So it was much easier. So even when I faced backlash, like people didn't like what I was doing,
mm,
it didn't affect me. I was feeling like, oh, I feel embarrassed or, there's too
mm,
much negative attention. I felt like it was fine. It was fine to do these things and it was okay to do those things. And it doesn't matter if people don't like it because I've never really wanted people's validation anyway. I haven't,
That's interesting to
and I
say.
know,
Mm,
yeah, I think it is interesting. I know that because I never sought it, I never asked them, and I
mm,
know that some of the ideas in society are so uh, painful for women,
mm,
it's difficult for women and for certain communities
mm,
that in my sense of right and wrong was I needed to do the thing that was what I believe was godly and
mhm.
close to the right thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. Now you have done a lot of things. I'm aware of that, but I would like you to share some of those things with my audience.
Yeah,
Some
sure.
of the impactful work that you've done as a woman.
Yes, yeah. So I've organised in my community projects which showcased uh, anti the well um, Islam in places which are outside of South Asia. So, for instance,
Mm,
the work of the very important legacy of kind of African and West Indian Muslims to the
mm,
UK,
mm,
and the importance of that what they have brought to the experience of Muslims here in the UK. So I've organised like activities around that. I've organised activities around anti-blackness and how to tackle colorism and anti-blackness
mm,
in our community, how to
mm,
look at issues to do with misogyny, because I think that in my community and the Muslim community, there's a lot of misogyny, and there's
mm,
this idea that feminism and these kind of ideas are, they're a bad thing because they're not from Islam, so I wanted to organize activities where people could talk about those things and be open. There was an open space to be able to talk about those things. And why was there a disconnect, like between Muslim men and women? Sometimes it seemed like that they
mm,
were not
mhm,
connected. There wasn't a unity between them.
mm,
So I organised a few events like that. I also organised. I was part of Black Lives Matter Redbridge, which is currently
okay.
I'm part of that organisation. So I was
Mm,
part of the organising team of Black Lives Matter Redbridge We've
mm,
organised activities in the area for lots of different things.
mm,
In my work, I organised an activity on violence against women. So we've had kind of topics, and we've called in MPs to discuss the issue of violence against women. Why does violence against women occur? How does it even occur in our communities?
mm.
I've met MPs um, to kind of discuss these matters, or to get them to support the work or find out their views about it. So there's been a few things that I've kind of done
Yeah,
because,
you know what, Sultana, what I've noticed from
yeah,
everything you've talked about is you have actually picked on most of the most difficult conversations that we don't like to have in our
yeah,
communities. I mean,
yeah,
you're talking about anti-blackness within the Muslim
yeah,
community. A lot of time we don't want to hear this
no,
thing, or when we do hear it, we want to distance ourselves from it and say, no,
definitely,
we're not
yeah,
involved in it. We it can
mhm,
be it's not an issue for us.
yeah,
You chose to do that. You talk about misogyny within the
mm,
community, and that is a big thing.
it is,
You know, people, there are always claims and counterclaims from people when it comes to Islam, that
yeah,
Muslim men are, you know, they are more prone to misogyny,
yeah,
where they feel that
yeah,
women are not supposed to talk, they're not supposed to do this.
yeah,
So you've picked, you know, very difficult conversations to
mm,
actually engage in the community. Now, my question to you is, um, as you are a wife, you're a wife, you're a mother, you
mm,
have all this role that
mhm,
people ordinarily believe will make it very difficult for you to make your own identity. So how was
mhm,
it? How did you make your own identity, you know,
mm,
given all this role and picking on all these very difficult conversations?
yeah. So I've experienced a divorce, so I know what it's like to be married and to be divorced.
Wow.
So I think that also was something that it, from that experience, I learned a lot about how women face misogyny in their homes or in their communities, and the silence around that. Um,
Mm,
I know what it's like, that where the, the label of colorism, which exists in South Asian communities specifically. I know it exists in other communities where dark skin is perceived in a particular way, is seen as something not
even
attractive, and
within
all of
Black
those
Muslim
things.
community, it exists.
Definitely. I mean,
You
all
find people
communities
using, you know, wanting to change the color of their
change
skin
their skin color.
and,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, all
yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's a big thing. It's a big
Mm,
industry in India and Nigeria. There's a big industry of skin
yeah.
bleaching.
Yeah.
So I know, and it's a growing industry in those countries. So, you know, and I know that it just doesn't affect women there, or men there. It affects obviously our communities here as well, because they're really thinking on lightening their skin and looking a particular color.
Mm,
So because I've had first-hand experience of that, I have sisters as well, lots of sisters. So
mm,
I know what that experience is like. And much like probably like West African communities, like Nigerian communities, like we have this thing where South Asian women, when the sun comes up, they don't want to go out into the sun because
mm,
they're worried about their skin
yeah.
becoming darker,
Get
and they cover
darker.
their, and it's such a horrible, it's like a mental health issue that and kind of takes up women and their sense of themselves. And I know the damage it can do when you are constantly fed these really, really corrupt ideas.
Mm,
So I felt as though if I was going to talk about something, and
mm,
I have a daughter and I have sons, if I
mm,
was going to talk about something, it had to be something where we were breaking those really difficult things. We were,
mm,
even if it's a little bit, even if you don't manage to get people to see all the whole picture, that
mm,
I had to leave a legacy or something for my children to see, that I tried, that I
mm.
really tried to make a
Um,
difference to the communities that we came from. Otherwise, what is the point of just living, and enjoying yourself, when you know that there's so many other things that are going on there where people are not sharing those same experiences with you?
mm,
And I felt as though my sense of self and my identity had to be shaped around um, serving others or trying to serve other people for the benefit that they would be, that it would make it easier for them to live a more liberated life. And that's so important to me. It's so important to me. Otherwise, I don't see the point of like being a mother. Part of me, motherhood for me, and being a wife is to grow and to leave something important for your children and to support them and to love them and show them, not in your words but your actions, that you're trying to make a difference in the world, even if it's just in your community. It doesn't have to be the whole world. And because that matters to me so much, I've kind of continued with that work because I want my children to feel that was something I want to leave behind.
What you said, we're still going to be talking about the Peg Your Achievement segment of the show, which is the flagship segment of this show, where you have to share your painful experience, your empowerment, and your gain. And I don't want to presume or assume what it would be. But you mentioned about divorce, and that's something that people don't like to talk about in our community. And you have experienced it. How is it? How do people react when, especially given you are from a Muslim background, you're from the South Asian community, and that. How was reactions to that, to your getting it?
It wasn't a good reaction. I think a lot of people, they were saying things like, oh, well, you've got grown kids now and you're getting divorced, and maybe you should have just carried on being in a relationship, and no one will marry you. So the whole thing was, no one will have you, no one will marry you. You've kind of ruined yourself now because you got divorced. No one will marry your daughter because you are a divorcee. So there was a lot of that. I heard a lot of, no one will marry your daughter because you're a divorcee. So nobody will want her.
And how did that make you feel?
She's from a broken home. She's from a single home.
How did that make you feel, Sultana?
It made me feel actually quite, at the beginning, probably quite sad, because I knew that wasn't true. I knew it wasn't true, but it made me feel sad that my daughter might think it was true. So I felt nervous that she might think, okay, I'm from a broken home, and I'm being raised by a single mother, and there's a stigma about being from a single mother, Muslim woman, and I was sad, and it made me sometimes quite angry, because I remember, not from older members of the community, but actually people who are my age, were spreading gossip about me.
Not even older members of, so people who are your own age.
I heard lots of things that people were like, oh, she got divorced and it was her fault, and she did this, this and this, and she was a bad wife, and that's why she got divorced, and all that. I heard all of it, and not from older people, from people that I thought I knew.
Obviously, I know you as someone that is, very strong and very, straightforward about the things you believe in and that you fight for. And I believe you must have, you must have had where you felt it was necessary, you must have had ready answers for them to give them if you felt it was necessary. But what I wanted to see how you dealt with, because I grew up as a child from a broken home also. So so I know what that experience is like, and I know how you go through all this process until it gets to a point, and then everything just kind of falls into place. How was that process with you and the children?
It was really hard, because I think that they were hearing so much negativity from people and from their father's side about the divorce. And so I think they were hearing these things and feeling as though maybe they had done something wrong, or then I had done something wrong. And so it took us a long time. And even now, I think, it's been a long time since I divorced their father. Like even now, it's kind of like it's trying to make sure that they feel that actually, even if you're from a family where you are raised by even one parent who loves you and cares about you, even if you can't have access to both parents, sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah.
And it can give you the strength that you need to carry on with your life and maybe choose better. Because I was very young when I got married, very young, and I don't feel like I really knew myself very much. And when you're forced to kind of sometimes make decisions, it wasn't an arranged marriage, but I felt like I was forced to make certain decisions when I didn't know myself very well. And as you get older, you change. So I realized that it was hard, and it still sometimes is hard. I think it's hard for all parents who are raising children on their own. It's a hard thing to do.
And the thing is, a lot of time, where the fact that parents are divorced or separated does not mean that there can be co-parenting that is very positive.
Exactly.
I have that as an experience. It was co-parenting and it was positive. Of course, although that doesn't mean that it's an easy ride or that it was a very good experience, but it wasn't as worse as people would ordinarily want you to think. And then, now, what would be your advice to anyone going through similar challenges at the moment?
I think that always try and see. I know sometimes a lot of women don't have support when it comes to these things. So if you can find support, even if that support is online or it's a group of people that you know, support is very important if you are going through something like this, because when you're alone and you're raising your children, it's a very hard thing to do. It's very hard. One thing you said, Rashida, and I'm so alhamdulillah, it makes me so happy to hear you say that you had, the co-parenting was positive.
Yeah.
Because that is the key. The key is that even if the parents aren't together, if the co-parenting is good, that child will still feel loved and looked after and visible and confident and all of those things. So I think the thing is sometimes if you don't have that, you can make your own family. What I mean by that is it could be your friends, it could be relatives, but people around you who can support you and support raising your children in a healthy, functional way. So, I think we need to sometimes
and it's not always easy. There's always that challenge. I said I had co-parenting, but at the same time, it wasn't all positive. There were serious issues, not even from aside from the two people involved. There are also issues about family, about neighbors, about different things that people really have to deal with in doing that. But what is important is, how do you navigate those problems and come out of it? And that's the whole essence of this show. That's why I want to speak with women. And of course, just to say that I would take questions from members of the audience, and you will be able to, I think I've got someone with hand raised, so I'm going to let them just ask you this question, and then we move on from that to something else, inshallah. Abby, please.
Assalamu alaikum, sister. Well, I've listened so far to your sharing your experience, and I really give you a bravo there, because what you made this good step by thinking, looking at yourself as the number one, and then you believe you really want to, go for what is better for you rather than what people are going to be saying or they already said about it. And alhamdulillah for that. Yeah, my question is, which would you believe is the best first points of approach to having, if you're having any issue? Would you advise go for a professional person, or rather, maybe your family? Sometimes you have elders in your family, or maybe a close pal in your family. So would you advise go for your relative before going to a professional. Sometimes when it comes to issue with, I mean, if you have an issue, any kind of issue, regardless. So which one would you prefer?
Thank you for that question. I think it depends. So the recommendation from the dean is to go to relatives first of all, but it may be the case that relatives are the ones who are creating the problems. So I think what you have to do is, if you can get professional help, because sometimes it's hard to get professional help, it's hard to find, and sometimes people can't afford professional help. So, but if you can, there are organisations out there that help married couples, and I think that's a really good idea if you can get it. I don't necessarily think that you need to go to somebody who is, it always helps if they have an understanding of your religion and culture. That does help. But I think that anyone who can help you and understand the situation is good. Because when you are going through something like this, sometimes you need somebody, who's not on either side to be able to,
an unbiased person.
Who's unbiased, who's
unbiased,
who can give advice on both sides. And sometimes when you are in a disagreement with each other, because that's sometimes why divorce occurs, you have a third person who can look at this with a calm head and say, I think you should do this, or I think you should consider this. And I think that's always the better way. But again, it's difficult because sometimes it's hard to find people who will do that. And it's not always the case that your family are the best people who can help you with this, unfortunately. It should be the case, but sometimes it's not. So I wouldn't automatically say go to your family. I mean, it might be somebody, a relative, a friend.
So it depends on what your circumstances is.
Okay.
Definitely. And now let's move away from, talking about divorce and all that. If you a lot of times people say that Muslim women are not supposed to be heard. They're supposed to the quiet one. You don't challenge anything. I know what your view is on this, because I know you to be someone who speaks up for things. But in the real sense of it, is it really true? Is it really true that is what Islam or Muslim women are supposed to be? The quiet people that don't say, that don't, you don't talk when people, you don't get into controversy and those kind of things.
Okay, so there's no evidence from the Islamic evidences to say that the role of the woman is to keep quiet and to not have an opinion and not have a voice. In fact, we know that the contrary is true. So we know with the Prophet ﷺ, he encouraged women always to say what they felt, what they were thinking, their opinions, even if it disagreed with him. There were incidences where his wives hotly disagreed with him, and we never had a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ where he told his wives, you are not allowed to have an opinion, you are not allowed to speak, you are not. There's no hadith about like this. And if we are saying we're going to follow the deen, then we need to go to the deen and really look carefully at whether or not those evidences exist. Is there an evidence in the Quran or the Sunnah that tells us a woman is not allowed to have a voice, a woman is not allowed to give her opinion, a woman is there's no evidences like that. So did God create us in such a way that that's what he expected of us? No. So the idea that we put sometimes that Islam or Muslimness means that a woman has to be quiet, she has to be demure, she mustn't give opinions, or what you said, Rashid, that she mustn't give controversial opinions, is simply misinformation, and it's not true, it's false. Because there is actually many evidences where women were being controversial. That woman that stood in front of Umar bin al-Khattab and she accounted him about the mahar, about the dowry. She did it publicly. She publicly stood up in front of the people and said, Umar, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never put an amount on the mahar. So why are you doing this? So, these were public acts that women did, that people accounted him for the amount of time men were away, when they were on conscription for war, or these things are open. So, and I think what's happened is that we live in a very patriarchal society. And I'm not talking about a Muslim society, I'm talking about even
This society generally, yeah.
Generally, society is very, very male dominated with a very patriarchal view about, and so when we have these views that are expressed that women need to be quiet, they're not necessarily coming from Islam, they're coming from the patriarchal structures and the societies and communities that we come from. Because they're the ones that control the Muslim spaces, the masjids or the community centers or the family, or even on TV or what have you. So, and that's become the dominant idea. So it's not unusual that they think that that's Islam as well, because it's men in the Muslim spaces who are saying that it's, we need to be quiet, we need to be. And so when you have just them and their opinions, it becomes very difficult to give a different opinion because they control all the spaces.
Exactly. Yeah.
So to give a different view becomes very, very difficult. And I think that's what's happened. It's got nothing to do with the deen. It's got to do with...
It's just about the way of thinking, people's way of thinking.
Yeah. And who has the power? Who's got the power?
Yeah, inshallah, we would go for a break soon. And of course, when we come back from the break, then we're going to go to the Peg Your Achievement segment, where you're going to be telling me the most painful experience, what has been your greatest empowerment, and what you think you have gained so far. I'm sure you're gaining more, you're winning more. There's still a lot to win. But, you know, if you look back in retrospect, so would you go for that break and then we'll come back for the Peg Your Achievement segments.
Why we've got Sam to the position that we have, and I am absolutely hopeful of that. I also want to thank Labour Friends of Bangladesh. I'm also a Bangladeshi. So I feel very strongly and happy the Bangladeshis are here supporting the community coming out in a tradition and history that we have always had. We have come from colonised communities, we've come to this country and we've fought. We fought hard and we continue to fight.
Yes, I just loved watching, you know, you in action there, you know, addressing the community and the round of applause and all that. That's, you know, it can be very fulfilling to be able to stay up and talk for the things you believe in and all that. But it doesn't come cheaply. So we're going to go on to the Peg Your Achievement segment of the show. The purpose of this segment is just to, you know, share your own experience, the things that you've gone through with other people so that they can also look at it and be able to think about it in their own lives and also make necessary decisions and take necessary action. So the segment is like this. I'm going to bring up my whiteboard and then I'll ask you to give me in one word or a phrase. If it's more than that, if it's a sentence, I won't take it. So you have to give a word or a phrase. You have to tell me what has been the most painful experience for you. Of course, we would also, you know, do a bit of a chat about that later on. But let me bring up my board, my whiteboard, and then we start. So we start with the P, which is the pain. So what would you say in one word or a phrase? You can use a phrase.
Having no money.
Money.
Having no money.
What? Say it again.
Having no money.
Having no money. That becomes a sentence, not a phrase. Oh, but so I would put it down. Having no money. Okay. Okay. And then now we'll come back to that. Then we talk about the empowerment, the E. Oh, sorry. The E.
Mhm. Having healthy children.
Healthy children. Healthy children. Okay. And what's your gain?
Feeling hopeful.
Hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
That's hope then.
Hope, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I like this HHH.
Yeah.
That is your peg. Your peg is HHH.
Wow.
I love to use acronyms, so yeah, I'm always looking out for them. So HHH peg. So your peg is HHH. So let's start with the first H.
Okay.
Having no money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought you were very rich, Sultana. I always see you as a rich woman. So
No.
what do you mean by having no money?
Okay, so when I got divorced, I had very little money, not much at all, and I was really struggling. So that was quite difficult because I was struggling with my children. So that was a difficult one. I think that I found that really hard because I was always worried that I would not be able to afford things or my rent or pay for food and things like that. So that was quite difficult at that time, and it was quite upsetting because I wasn't sure what I was going to do and if it was going to change, my situation would change. But it did change, and I managed to overcome it. I was very scared at one point that I'd lose my home, but alhamdulillah, it worked out okay.
You see what, this is why I'm so passionate about this program and having these conversations with women. When we talk about inspiring women and wanting them to take actions, and people feel, why are you so on about this?
Yeah.
Having no money can really, really demoralize anybody.
Yeah.
And a lot of women who are not economically empowered,
Yeah.
who are very much reliant on their homes, on their married life to sustain themselves, face difficulties. In fact, that is one of the reasons some people perpetually stay in relationships that are very toxic and are not positive for them because of that worry. That I mean, if I go, where do I start from? So I definitely can understand that, and thank God that you were able to. Now the other one, the other H, the elder children. So what about that?
I think it was just such a beautiful thing. Every time, even though I was going through a really difficult time in my marriage, every time I gave birth to a child and that child was healthy, it was like a massive, I felt so empowered and felt so confident, like it was such a boost to me. It was such a wonderful thing. And being a mother, I think having these children and raising them and how well they've turned out, mashallah, has really made me, it really empowered me in a way that I never thought, because for so long I felt on my own. And then when you have these babies and they're little versions of you, like Allah gave them to you to look after. You think, wow, like God must love me that He gave me these children, and these children are healthy, and that was a really like confident boosting moment for me.
Wow. I find it really, really profound that is what you consider your most empowering experience, having healthy children, because a lot of time when I ask this question, what I feel comes to people's mind is, okay, it's about me, what it's all about me. But you see, the things around you are also part of your empowerment. I mean, your children, what else can be more empowering than knowing that you've got these beautiful children that are like a backbone for you, Amazing, amazing. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm a mother. That's all I do." For goodness sake, it's a big deal to be a mother.
Huge deal.
It's a big deal. And for you to achieve, being a mother and having children that you've worked so hard and Allah has blessed your work, that they've turned out good.
Yes.
You don't know what kind of empowerment that is. I really appreciate that. And the last H.
Yeah. So yeah, what I've gained, I think that I've realized through all of even the difficult experiences, is that if you just have hope and in yourself and in Allah's plan for you, and sometimes it feels like you don't know what's going to happen, but just to continue to have hope that things will be okay, they'll be better, you'll find a way. And to look for the hope in a situation, to look for the hopeful situation, is such a tremendous liberating thing. It's like being in love. It's like being hopeful is like one of the best feelings ever. It's because it's like, you know that you can wake up and say, Alhamdulillah, I have another day and I can achieve great things. And I'm so grateful for everything that I do have. So that for me is a tremendous blessing.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. I really, really want to thank you, Sultana, for allowing me to go into your life so intimately.
Yeah. I'm glad to share it with you, Rashida.
It's
so much. So it's great.
It's always a pleasure to be with you and to learn all these things. And I'm sorry I couldn't take more contributions from the audience this time around. Where you have someone you enjoy talking with a lot, sometimes you get so carried away. But yeah, definitely, I think at some other points, because like I said, you're still winning. All the women I've brought on this show, they are still stories in the making. And it's just sharing from some of the landmarks. So it's not as if, that's the end of it. So I'm sure that at some point, definitely will still have the opportunity of having you on this show. And I want to again reiterate your 3H. So my guest today has given us 3H to go on with as part of the Peg Your Achievement segment. The first one is having no money. Yeah, having no money is a big deal. It's for everyone, whether it's a woman or, not. It's a big deal. But so don't let that be something that puts you down. Oh, I don't have money and so I cannot talk. I don't have money so I can't make a decision. I don't have money so I can't progress. No, it shouldn't be. Having no money, yes, it's painful. It's painful for all of us, but having no money should drive you to the next thing that our guest talked about, the gain, which is the hope. Hope is very important. When we have hope, we cannot, we can't miss out on anything, because hope will always drive you. And also there is the elder children. Our children are wonderful. And they're beautiful, and they're gifts from Allah, from God. If you're not a Muslim, and they are just amazing to behold, and we should keep them happy always. And before I wrap it up finally today, Sultana, a parting shot from you, like a parting statement to the audience. Yeah.
I think that first of all, thank you so much for having me on here. It's really been an honor. But just to all the guests or anyone, all the people who are listening to this, don't give up. Whatever it is for women, just don't give up. Don't give up. Like Rashida said so beautifully, you are a story in the making. And you don't know what God has in store for you, so just don't give up. Believe in yourself and know that a circumstance could change just like that. So, just keep on trying.
Keep on trying. And on that very hopeful note, I would like to thank every one of you for joining us today on the Women in Action show. If you know of any amazing woman you would like us to have a chat with, please do send me messages on on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and remember to press on the follow button and the subscription button so that you can always get notifications when we go online and we bring all these amazing women to share their experience, just an hour or thereabout with these women, and you can see just how impactful their lives have been, and you can learn from it and know that yes, you can also achieve something with yourself, regardless of where you are at this moment. And with that, I say thank you to everyone who joined me on Zoom today. Next week is going to be another interesting woman that's going to be my guest. And I would want to invite you now and also tell you to please remember exactly the same time, 4 p.m. on Sunday. Try invite your friends and family, and also look for me on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter, and follow so that you can hear, you can be notified whenever the program comes on air. And Sultana, thank you.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you. And as Sultana said, be hopeful and let your hope drive you to achieve, regardless of the challenge. Thank you very much. Until we see next week again.